Intel had their earnings, and I think everybody was waiting for bated breath to hear what the new co-CEOs had to say. And this is a natural thing. Whenever you put a new leader in place, there are going to be changes or a potential reset. And that includes even when you have the way that the board has positioned these leaderships as temporary, right? And it doesn't mean they aren't being considered, but MJ and David are not the official co-CEOs in perpetuity. So with that said, just a ton of takeaways from the call. Well, first of all, they had a beat and a beat. So things were related. I was really surprised after the conference call that how positive everybody was still on the stock. I thought it was going to tank after the following, which was Falcon Shores was essentially canceled, and that's their low precision data center AI GPU. They did telegraph this, so maybe that incorporated it, or the street just had zero expectations. Anyways, but the focus then becomes the next product, which is Jaguar Shores. And the other thing that I thought the street might react to was an on-paper push out of Clearwater Forest, which is the mini E-core that was discussed at getting out at the end of 25, but was reset to the first half of 26. So on Clearwater Forest, to me, there were no surprises. Through my channel checks and relationships that I have, they were telling me that it was going to be 26, not 25. And as MJ reported in, I think it may have been the Barclays or the Bank of America conference in December, this is not a great part. And I think this is the right thing to do, right? This is the time where you reset your roadmaps, you reset everybody's expectation, and you really set the tone for what the future holds. And MJ was very insistent on the call about, truing up this roadmap and delivery schedules. And it's funny, a lot of people forget, and maybe this because it was too long ago, but Intel had a crisis when AMD was pounding it into the ground over a decade ago. And when Intel came in with the core architecture, they reset their roadmaps. And I think the wording was, hey, we're moving our roadmap confidence from 80% to 95%. And they pushed out pretty much everything. So none of this shocks me at all. And the other thing on the call that came up on the foundry side is I really like the pragmatism that came out. 18A might be really good, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a ton of customers bet the farm on it. That's just not going to happen. And as we've seen, Microsoft and Amazon have signed up, and they're doing networking chips, right? They're not doing core compute yet. And what Dave Zizner, talked about on the call was, hey, you got to have this trust in. And I think it was one of the first times I had heard that type of pragmatism. And I thought it worked. I do wish that Dave would have reported or MJ the exact state of 18A with yield numbers, or making a comparison to prior nodes, or maybe even in comparison to what TSMC is talking about too. But other than that, I thought it was a reset call. It was required, and I was impressed with the pair.
Yeah, I thought it was a really positive call. I commend Michelle for her, tact in the whole thing. This is definitely a difficult situation, and David too, of course. David's always been, he's very calm, CFO-like. That's his demeanor. MJ's a passionate product and revenue leader of the company. And of course, sometimes, patience is hard. You hit a lot of the things that are important. I guess I'd just make 2 points that really were clear for me. One is like all the basically the value of this company's already been soaked out of the market. Like there's not a lot of downside left. The thing trades at close to book value. So like people basically here, if you actually to see it meaningfully go down from here, you actually have to believe it's realistic the company is going to go bankrupt. That's the bottom line. So there isn't a lot of like bad that could be said that would send the stock down unless it was a sign of like the company's, you know, risk of going concern that it could literally go out of business. The side of it that is good is like, you know, Intel's probably fault over the last few years, because I still don't think Pat got the right sort of treatment on the way out. I mean, my personal opinion was he was doing a lot of what needed to be done. He was still stitching a lot of wounds from the past. And, you know, could he have put more energy into a low precision data center GPU and maybe gotten there sooner? Maybe. The point of MJ's comments was what they had just wasn't that good. I mean, that's my interpretation of her comments, is the reason they're going to push it out even another year was because the only thing worse than not having an AI product for the data center is having a one. And so, you know, she's basically saying we're going to get something that's going to be competitive. It's going to be right. It's going to fit the market. We got to get software right. You know, we heard from Mark Papermaster at the Oracle event this week talking about how important getting software right is in this year. Like you can have a really great GPU. And actually they have a really good accelerator with Gaudi from a performance standpoint, but the software is pretty inflexible. And so the customers that were highest probability to consume a lot of Gaudi were the hyperscale cloud providers, because they're the ones that have enough volume on a workload that they could basically deal with the software, but they all went ahead and built their own. So that created a lot of friction in this market. So nobody is going to be satisfied with the DCAI business until they get that done. But now it's out there. It's out there. Look, it's Gaudi from now to 27. She or whoever is going to lead products for that company and CEO of the company long-term has to get a good AI product out. The other thing I'd say, Pat, is, and you and I have talked a lot about this, in the PC and client side, the company's done a good job shoring up that business. That has not been a bad thing. They've done a good job of protecting market share. You know, the Lunar Lake product was good. The roadmap is encouraging. You know, and if they can keep the market share they have, and they can protect the business, and they can, you know, get to these next generations and build on 18A and show that that's an improvement, they're well positioned. The last thing I'd say with all this China noise, there is another sort of loop back of where Intel could really play a part in de-risking the situation of what's going on with China, with Taiwan, with the lack of U.S. manufacturing of the most advanced chips. I think you said in the segment, even if TSMC brings their leading nodes here, they don't bring the IP. And, you know, if the U.S. wants to make sure it's got that resilience, Intel is kind of, all roads still kind of lead to Intel at this point. And so however they can get that done, that would be a huge benefit.
One final comment I thought was interesting, not a lot of detail and not even questions from the peanut gallery, was there was a comment, MJ, she's got enthusiasm for building both semi-custom and custom products. And that kind of went with a thud, right? And I thought there would be a lot more questions, right? So two types of ways you can do a custom chip for somebody, right? You can do custom VIDs and FIDs, which is essentially voltage and frequency, to manage the price, performance, and power equation. And the other thing you can do is you can actually build a straight up, it's funny, it's called semi-custom, but it's really a custom chip. AMD does this a lot for Xbox and for Sony. And nobody bit on that. My thoughts go to the following, where Intel has gone to a chiplet architecture, and I'm wondering if they're going to invoke chiplets and start frickin' selling chiplets to, I don't know, AWS, to Meta, to do and do a custom processor for them. And then I'm wondering, what does that mean to AMD, and what does that potentially mean to ARM? I wish there would have been a question, but there wasn't. Maybe we'll follow up with MJ afterwards.